Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you this fine Friday evening?
James, I'm doing fantastic. I apologize for the lack of shows in the past week or so. I've been sick, still kind of getting over the sick. I don't know if you can hear my throat. Had a cough for like a week and a half now, but hey, we're making it work. Still hit overtime last week. I'm gonna hit overtime this week, even with missing days of work. So
Attaboy.
I don't want to do it. It's bad for the business, but I also understand it has to happen sometimes. So just the way the business works, homie. How are you doing, James? You doing good?
Man, I'm all right, man. I'm all right.
Doing all right.
I'm
How was your wine thing you went to?
Oh, that was fun. That was a good time, man. Lots of people there. Lots of people having a good time. Everybody's happy when they're drinking wine, you know?
Oh, yeah. I might drink some after this. Who knows? But let's go ahead and before we get into
I chose
this,
differently this evening.
strong. I'm jealous. I don't think they have Strongbow down here. I'm big sad. It's very.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Oh, it's wildly unfortunate.
Get your act together, West Virginia. Get some Strongbow on your shelves.
So excited to get the show on the road. Excited to maybe come home sometime soon and get some Strongbow from you and just some quality time. But before we go too far into all the news that we've missed and talked about and combine and meetings and everything else that's going on, we do want to talk Steelers by the Lake news. We're going to give you that February recap as far as numbers. We're just going to go over states this month. The analytics didn't track everything correctly, so we don't have the countries, but that's fine for 1 month. We don't care. It'll be accurate next month. We'll figure it out. But James, top states for downloads.
Weird one at number 1, Pennsylvania.
Shocking.
I know. Shocker as usual. Number 2, California, trying to give Pennsylvania a run for their money. And as we always say, California been a very strong download state for us since the very beginning. Now our 5th year doing this podcast together.
5.
Number 3, Ohio. No surprise there, big Steeler following in Ohio. Number 4, Cody's former state of Texas. And number 5, bringing up the rear, Florida. Florida coming in at 5. So a lot of repeat offenders on this list, but repeat offenders in a good way for us.
Yeah, that sounds bad when you say it that way. Continue to do what you're doing. Bring your friends with you.
How dare you support us in a good manner.
Yeah.
Much love to all of you, and if your name's not on the list as far as your state, well, then tell some more friends so that you can get on there next.
Or move. I mean, whatever.
Go to a better state. Yours sucks.
Yeah, I gotta get out of West Virginia. We're not gonna talk about that too much. Let's go ahead and look at roster moves because James, we have a couple of those to look at.
Yeah, we do. We do, man. Things are happening. So exclusive rights. Free agents, you might have heard us talk about this previously. They really don't have any rights at all. The exclusive rights belong to the team. So the 2 that Pittsburgh had that fell under that category was Dylan Cook, who was the inactive offensive tackle basically all season last season. Yep. But that just showed you that they had plans for him. They didn't want to take the risk of trying to put him on the practice squad and somebody poaching him. So they kept him on the 53. They just didn't dress him on Sundays. So there's some promise with Dylan Cook. Last preseason, he did play some guard as well, but listed as a tackle. Also, outside linebacker Jeremiah Moon. Now, if you remember, Jeremiah Moon is the former Baltimore Raven who they made a roster move at the end of the season. Actually, I think in the postseason.
I think it was in the postseason.
And released him in an effort to get somebody else on their 53 for the playoff game. They were probably intending on putting him on the practice squad, but by technicality, he had to go through the waiver process. Pittsburgh claimed him off waivers when their own season was already over. And just like that, since he was an exclusive rights free agent, Pittsburgh owned all his rights.
Yeah.
So he will be on the 90-man squad going into the offseason. And, it's a guy going into his last year of his rookie deal, basically. So if he shows something, maybe Pittsburgh hangs on to him past that. But at least it's a guy with some NFL experience and some AFC North experience.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, let's be real. That's a different type of football. And if you have that experience, if you've been around it, you can kind of prepare for it. I mean, Pittsburgh, again, we didn't even talk about it that much, I don't think. But last year, the only division in football with every team to have a winning record.
Yeah.
So Let's be real. It's something serious here in the
Crazy.
AFC North. Omar Khan,
Crazy.
in other news, hints that Nate Herbig may be playing center next year. So that would be very interesting.
Hmm.
Again, with the releasing of Mason Cole, is this saying, hey, Nate Herbig's next guy up? Are we going to sign a free agent again? Are we going to look into drafting somebody? Please draft an offensive lineman or two. We'll see what they
Yeah.
get to. But he does hint about Nate Herbig getting some playing time at center position.
And then that same press conference had some concern about Cole Holcomb being ready for this upcoming season. They never really told us what that knee injury was. It's starting to sound like this was a little bit more significant than just a single ligament.
There's
So
I
this might
I
have been,
promise you it was more than that. The way his knee
yeah,
buckled and dislocated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like we had something a little more severe, possibly multiple ligaments. Hopefully, this is not a nerve damage type situation like we saw before with a former Steelers middle linebacker, Sean Spence.
Yeah.
His rookie season, he absolutely shattered his knee, tore like 3 ligaments, and had damage to the peroneal nerve and never got all that explosiveness out of that leg back. They called it like a dead foot, where you don't have all the push off of the foot on that leg because of the nerve damage. So he lost all of his explosiveness basically and turned into just like a regular dude out there. So, obviously, hope for the best case scenario that Cole's ready to go at the beginning of next season. But we do have to be realistic and understand there's a possibility he won't. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's be real. If Cole Holcomb doesn't come or doesn't show up, what's the concern there? Do we need to draft a middle linebacker? I'm nervous about that.
yes.
I was just trying to find I was just trying to see if I could find anything else on my phone. I don't see anything as like there's no updated information on the knee
Yeah.
injury. It's just
Yeah. They never said just knee. And you knew
there's
that, like you said,
nothing.
by watching it. You knew it
Oh
was a
my
knee.
gosh, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
With that being
So,
said, go
yeah,
for it.
related news to that.
Yeah, go for it.
Combine.
It's
Combine
combine,
happened since we talked
rookies,
to you guys
potential
last.
rookies, potential
Yeah.
failures, life failures, potential Hall of Famers. We never know.
As every year, Pittsburgh is able to meet with informally interview up to 30 players. They also have informal interviews, but it kind of gives you a little bit of insight as to what guys they're looking at, what positions, and possibly what rounds. In that linebacker conversation, they met with a bunch of the top tier dudes: Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Junior Colson, Tommy Eichenberg, Edrin Cooper, JD Bertrand, Darius Masau, Nathaniel Watson. Most of these guys are expected to be top middle linebackers in this crew. Now, that being said, there isn't really one dude in this year's class, according to most folks, that is the number one for sure, surefire guy. There was a middle linebacker that ran like a 4.44 40, but he's like 6'4" and 230 pounds. So he's really skinny. And I don't know that he's going to fit the bill
Peyton
for what
Wilson.
Pittsburgh's
Yeah.
looking for. But Edrin Cooper fits the bill perfectly for what they look for. And then there's another dude that I really liked out of North Carolina, I think it was.
Cedric
He
Gray.
really fit the bill too. Cedric Gray, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cedric Gray was another one. Size, frame, athleticism really kind of fit the bill what they look for. But it's going to be interesting. It looks like there's a really good possibility they're going to be targeting middle linebacker. I'd say probably second or third round.
I mean,
I
you
don't
have
think
to.
they'll. Yeah, I don't think they'll use one of these picks on a first round guy. I don't think any of these guys is, if I don't get them in the first, I'm worried about not getting them in the second kind of thing.
Yeah.
But possibilities really there. Do you want to talk about this quarterback group they met with, Cody?
Yeah, the cornerback group is a very talented group. Obviously, the guy that you've heard us talk about already pretty consistently, Cooper DeJean out of Iowa, did not actually do any drills at the combine because he's still recovering from a broken leg. But Cooper DeJean, again, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 prospects for cornerback, depending on who you're looking at. Terrion Arnold out of Alabama, Kamari Lassiter from Georgia, Mike St. Ristel from Michigan, Nate Wiggins, which is another big name from Clemson, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Kool-Aid Listen,
Mhm.
I'm the only thing I'm upset about is if you buy his jersey, it won't say Kool-Aid on the back. It'll say McKinstry.
I know, right?
That's the only downfall. And then Daquan Hardy from Penn State and MJ Devonshire from Pittsburgh. All guys that Pittsburgh talked to, whether formal or informal. Again, I mean, you know that James and I are full send on Cooper DeJean,
Yep.
but with other things that have happened that we'll get to as far as roster moves that just happened today, you got to imagine that they're going to draft a cornerback and maybe even potentially one that'll start opposite of Joey Porter Jr. by the middle of the season or end of the year next year.
Yeah. Real big variety of this group of guys. Most of them are outside corners, but significant in Mike Sanders still, most people's number one nickel corner in this class. Actually, his measurables were awesome. He's a little short, but he was fast for a nickel corner, strong for a nickel corner, not real long arms, but that's not the end of the world when you're talking about a nickel guy. He's just a tough dude, tough against the run. And Pittsburgh's always had an issue with having their nickel corner that's a little slow. He would not be a slow one by any means. Also, Daquan Hardy out of Penn State, another nickel or slot corner. So they met with a couple guys that's their primary role that they're used to is as a nickel or slot defender. Daquan Hardy also returned some kicks for Penn State and had some of them come back for touchdowns.
There you go.
So very, very dynamic athlete.
And he's a local
group.
guy. He's a local guy. He's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So he's from there. Obviously went to Penn State instead of Pitt, but he's a guy that, Pittsburgh sometimes likes to keep the local guys local. I don't know if it's they're used to the cold or if there's any kind of thing there, but he ran a 4.38 and did a 10.6 on the broad. So
right?
I'll take that.
That's very, very explosive, man. That's numbers you love to see. Safety group, while we're in the secondary, let's talk them real quick. They met with Tyler Nubin, Kalen Bullock, Tyke Smith, Dominique Hampton, James Williams, Javon Bullard, Sione Vaki. Big name for me out of all this is going to be Tyke Smith out of Georgia. Tyke was in one of those all-star games. I believe it was the East-West Shrine Bowl, and looked really good in it. He's a stout dude who hits hard and, again, has a good size profile for a slot defender. Profiles probably a little bit more as a strong safety, but he's a shorter dude, almost 5'10". But I think he weighed in a little over 200 pounds, like 202 or something.
202.
Yeah, so
ran
a stouter dude.
4.46.
Yeah, was he the one that put up like 20 reps on a bench too? Do you have that in front of you?
He didn't bench press.
He didn't bench. Most of these cats didn't bench. Most of these secondary guys did not bench.
No, the safety that put up 20. So three safeties put up 20 or more. Sione Vaki from Utah put up 20.
Okay.
Jalen Carlies from Missouri put up 20. And then Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest put up 22.
Nice.
So
nice. That's really good for a safety. Nice numbers on those guys. So they also met with a bunch of edges and a bunch of defensive line guys. Edges, Austin Booker, Mohamed Kamara. This is a name that keeps on coming up. I absolutely thought he was a baller at the East-West Shrine Bowl. And then his combine numbers were freaking awesome. I think Cody's going to pull those up to back me up on this.
Yeah, I'll pull them up in a second.
Javon Solomon, Cedric Johnson, Miles Cole, Braden McGregor, Jalen Harrell, Marshawn Nealand, and Jalix Hunt of Houston.
Kamara ran a 4.57, did 10.3 on the broad and 23 reps on the bench.
Yeah, man. That's a real nice performance for an outside linebacker. And not a tall dude.
No, he's only 6'1".
But yeah, it's kind of more in the James Harrison type mold than the larger TJ Watt type. Defensive line, we're just going to cruise through this here because we got a couple other topics to talk and don't want to do an hour and a half long show on you guys today.
Yeah, we're only like 14 minutes. They got time.
Yeah. Yeah, right? McKinley Jackson, Rook Orororo, Byron Murphy II, Darius Robinson, Eric Watts, Jordan Jefferson, Gabe Hall, Tyler Davis, Logan Lee, and Justin Ibagby. A bunch of these guys fit as like the 3-4 defensive end types, which is going to be Rook Orororo, Gabe Hall, Logan. Those guys all have a very similar, Darius Robinson, a very similar size profile in that 6'4" to 6'5", 280 to 300-pound type range.
Yep.
Not a ton of them had the length you were looking for. I think Rook did. I want to say Rook had a real nice length, like 34 or 35 inch.
34.
Yeah, 34. So he's the one that out of all these guys has the length that you're looking for. The strong boy out of this group, Jordan Jefferson, he had a bunch of reps on the bench.
34
Yeah, 34 reps. But if you do remember,
Rook put up 29.
a couple,
so
that's awesome, especially for that
34-inch long arms. Yep.
Yeah, when you're talking that kind of length, that many reps, that's a boy that put a lot of time in the weight room, no doubt. Jordan Jefferson, if you remember a few weeks back, Cody was talking about how there was a one-on-one blocking drill where the offensive lineman won, the defensive lineman lost his mind and ripped the helmet off the other guy and launched it. That was Jordan Jefferson. So I would say that he's probably put himself off of a lot of teams' lists by losing his cool in a simple one-on-one.
Is that a sign of roid rage? 34 reps on the bench and
necessarily
anger?
roid rage,
No, I'm just
but
kidding.
definitely
It's just a
anger
joke.
issues.
It's just a joke.
Yeah.
I'm not
Definitely.
assuming anything. Oh, man.
I mean, Cleveland's probably going to be all about the dudes.
Oh, absolutely. Give him a helmet, see how hard he can swing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll look great.
Oh, you like taking people's helmets off? All right.
If they draft him right now, I'm like, this right here will be a video, a little short that we'll make.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this offensive line. Tons of prospects Pittsburgh met with there. J.C. Latham of Alabama, Amarius Mims of Georgia, Graham Barton of Duke, Cedric Van Pran out of Georgia, Blake Fisher from Notre Dame, Satoa Leimea out of Utah. Sounding name out of Utah. That happens so frequently. Christian Mahogany out of Boston College, Hunter Norzat out of Penn State, KT Leviston out of Kent State, Bo Limmer out of Arkansas, Javion Cohen out of Miami, Florida, Kingsley Egukun out of Florida, and Javon Foster of Missouri. Thank you for Javon for having a normal and easy name for me to close that out with, because there were some tough ones in that group.
There were
a little bit of everything there, right, Cody? We got tackles, we got guards, we got centers.
Yeah,
kind of everything.
I mean,
not seeing the top couple centers on this list though.
It makes you wonder: are they going to go out and sign somebody in free agency? I mean, I don't even know who the top free agents are right now.
Mitch Morris is coming in for an interview. He just got cut by the Bills like yesterday, and he's already coming into Pittsburgh.
Well, then I'll take that. Never mind. I will shut up right now.
He's an older guy, right? Like he's like 32.
But we need that. Fine. We need that.
You take that for a year or two and then draft somebody else on the road. It's somebody that you can. It's like last year with Isaac Seumalo, right? Isaac was 29, 30 years old. That's fine. You're not signing for a 10-year deal. You needed to solidify the position while you fill other ones in the draft.
Yep.
So similar idea if you bring a guy like Mitch Morris in, solidify the center position so that you have something better than what Mason Cole was last year, and then go ahead and draft somebody maybe next year instead.
Yep.
Or try to develop a 3rd or 4th round pick or something. Just draft somebody better than Kendrick Green.
Yeah, that's not that hard to do, James. But anyways, with that being said, let's take a look here at the other guys they listed. I mean, we went through offensive line. I like this tight end group. Jaheim Bell from Florida State, Theo Johnson from Penn State had a good combine. AJ Barner from Michigan State, Ben Sinnott from Kansas State, and then Brevin Sponford from Minnesota. Theo Johnson, a smaller guy compared to what Pittsburgh normally goes for. But again, I mean, look at how they've been utilizing Connor Hayward. I mean, yeah, he's stout, he's big.
Possible fullback conversion. Apparently, a lot of teams asked him in interviews if he would be willing to switch to fullback. So that's something to be considerate of. A guy like that might be able to be a fullback in the future for Pittsburgh. A couple of these guys, monsters, huh? Theo Johnson, a big dude. Also, Brevin Spanford, a real big dude. And Theo Johnson lit it up in typical Penn State fashion. What a day for him.
This must be like a very pass tight end heavy draft, because I've never seen this little number of tight ends bench.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a bad sign, right?
One tight end bench.
Who was it?
Tip Riemann from Illinois. Put up 28 reps on the bench.
Yeah, he was a big dude, I wanna say. I wanna say he was like 270 or 280 pounds or something.
6'5", 271, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
With
big
almost
blocking tight end.
33-inch arm long or 30,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
That's the kind of guy that if he doesn't do well as a receiver, somebody might try and turn him into an off tackle. That might
yeah. Yeah, very strange to see that little number of tight ends bench for sure. James, the wide receiver group here, not to waste any time moving on. Jalen McMillan from Washington, Troy Franklin from Oregon, Adonai Mitchell from Texas, Keon Coleman from Florida State, Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, Rome Odunes from Washington, Ricky Purcell from Florida, and Tez Walker from North Carolina. All
Mhm.
guys that Pittsburgh looked at. Again, the most interesting one in my mind with those names, um, and where'd he
Probably
go?
Roma Dunze, right? A lot of people got him going top 5, top 10 of the draft.
Yeah, I
So it
mean,
makes you wonder, why is Pittsburgh even bothering to talk to a guy that most teams have as probably gonna be off the board within the top 5, top 10 picks?
yep,
I mean, that's who I would say. It's the shocker to me out of this group is that so many of these guys are considered like top 5, top 10 at their position. And it really makes you think Pittsburgh may possibly not be looking at long-term plans for Deontay Johnson. Upcoming season is his last year under contract. There's been a lot of rumors trade him. I don't think they trade him before the draft,
no,
just because you don't want to put Kenny Pickett in a worse situation receiver wise in his prove it year. You need to make sure that he's got as strong of a receiver core as possible. So, could you possibly move on from him? Cody suggested in our pre planning show portion, maybe even moving on from Johnson right before the trade deadline. Maybe you draft a guy, and this is Cody's brainchild here, not mine. I'm not taking credit for it. I think
yeah,
it's a good idea, though. If you draft a rookie and he develops enough that you're confident starting him opposite of George Pickens, well, then maybe you do try to trade him at the trade deadline and see if you can get some value out of him.
yeah. And again, the guy that also interests me in this, and like specifically that we talked to, Brian Thompson or Thomas Jr., 6'3", out of LSU, 6'3", 209 pounds, ran a 4.33 40.
That's blazing, man.
Big and
That's like
fast.
Martavis Bryant.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And he kind
Mhm.
of looks freakish too.
Yeah.
Imagine
Yeah.
having two.
Martavis was like 6'4", but yeah, not much heavier than that if he was. And he was like 4.33 or 4.34.
Yep.
That's a Martavis Bryant sized dude.
And imagine a guy like that going side like right and left
Yeah.
with George Pickens, man.
Yeah.
Calvin Austin in the slot. I mean,
As long as he can get in and out of his breaks, man, we got to have at least one quick breaks. But maybe that's where a guy like Ricky Pearsall comes in, the Florida kid, a very talented route runner. There's a few of those guys this year, man. Luke McCaffrey, Ed's younger brother, very athletic, really puts people through the corkscrews when it comes to his running ability, is his route running. There's also a kid out of Michigan whose name is escaping me right now, who ran like a 4.39 40.
mhm.
Also, an excellent technician when it comes to his route running. So there's a lot of really talented wide receivers in this year's class. And it kind of makes me rethink how Pittsburgh's going to attack this, especially if they legitimately fill a couple of these needs in the postseason here in free agency, which is starting very soon here.
Yeah.
If they fill some of these positions and are able to attack some stuff that's going to be a need a year down the road, like wide receiver, man, it's kind of like the tight end class last year. You couldn't walk away from that tight end class and not get one. There were so many of them that were so good, you had to get at least one of them. I think the wide receiver class is kind of like that this year. You need to get one of these guys.
Yep. Yeah, I can't agree more. I wonder if they it sucks because I want a talented guy. I don't want to waste a pick, but at the same time, there's so many needs. And a lot of this is going to come down to, like you said, what they do in free agency, who they target. Do we try to get those veteran offensive linemen, someone that knows the game that can come in and hopefully help us protect Kenny Pickett, or who knows, other people uh, who might sign league minimums. Anyways, but yeah, real quick before we move on to talk about the roster moves that happened today. They also met with three running backs: George Holani, excuse me, Will Shipley, and Isaac Guerrero from Louisville. I think
Isaac was the speed demon,
Isaac
right?
was the
Wasn't he the
speed
one that
demon.
was? Yeah,
He ran a 4.33 40.
yeah. That's a real fast dude.
Yeah.
Shipley, I remember seeing him running at Clemson. Just kind of sticks out when a guy that's as light skinned as him is running the ball and running well.
Yep. Yeah, true. I'm just curious to see what was his last name?
The
Shipley?
Clemson running back, Will
Yeah.
Shipley.
Don't see him as a 40 time listed here. So
He might not have run it.
I don't think he did. Curious to see who
Did he
benched.
bench? Because a lot of these guys will do one or the other opposite.
Yeah, no, nothing, no bench for him. You want to know who did not do well on the bench?
At what position? What are we talking about?
Running back.
Running back.
It's very unfortunate, given his name.
Oh no, who is it?
Frank Gore Jr.
Oh, how many did Frank put up?
12.
Oh, that's not great.
No, that's
He's little though. He isn't even 200 pounds,
that's
is he?
6. That's 6 below the next guy. The next guy put up 18. Yeah, he's only 5'8". He's a little guy.
Yeah, but how much does he weigh though?
201. It's a lot of weight.
201, yeah. That's a dense frame. You would have expected him to put up more than 12 reps. But a lot of these guys try to cut weight to get as lean as possible, to jump well and to run good 40s and get good agility times. And then they put the weight back on and bench at their pro day.
Yep.
Seems like that was not his strategy. But that does mean that there's a chance that he'll be available later on.
Yeah. You got to imagine he has some talent too with his dad being, Frank
Dude,
Gore.
he's good.
Frank Gore
He's very
Sr.
good. Yeah, he's very good.
He's top 10, right, in NFL career rushing yards?
Yeah, because he played for almost 20 years. Yeah, he's up there, man.
I'm just curious. He is third. Yeah, 16,000 exactly. Yep.
What was it? Emmett Smith and then who? And then
Emmett and Walter.
Walter, then him?
Yep. And then Barry Sanders, then Adrian Peterson.
Wow.
Yep. We still have one guy in the top 10. He's sitting at number 8. So
Jerome?
Yep.
Yeah, Franco wasn't too far
me.
behind Jerome.
That's still wild to me. Franco's at 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, you don't think you can do something today? Remember, Jerome Bettis had asthma and is in the top 10 for rushing yards in the NFL.
Yeah, right. Crazy. Crazy. Speaking of crazy, lots of transactions going on with the NFL. The Steelers just the last couple of days. So it's Friday evening while we're recording here. Some of you might not get the show till Saturday morning or later on. But that being said, Keanu Neal was released with a failed physical designation by the Steelers.
Yep.
So he will not be part of the plans in this upcoming season. And then just within a couple hours of us starting to record this show, Pittsburgh decided to release Patrick Peterson and Allen Robinson, which is going to save a bunch of money on the cap. And then they signed Braden Fehoko, the nose tackle, to a 1-year deal. That might be bad news for Montravius Adams. I believe Montravius Adams is a free agent. So
yeah, probably not coming back.
Yeah.
So
what's that put us at cap wise, Cody?
Listen, 26 million under the cap. 26 million under the cap is fantastic. I do also want to point out that in not roster moves, but technically a visit, we do have Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh tonight, meeting with Pittsburgh. So, very interesting there. I don't want him, quite frankly. I think if you bring him in
as a backup, but I think it's going to be
if you
so
bring
much
him in,
it
ruins all the confidence that Kenny Pickett already doesn't have after last year and bouncing around and this and that.
I'd rather see a clear backup. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'd rather have someone come in that wasn't a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Don't get me wrong; it'd be nice to have him in my brain of like brains, and processing football and like everything else. But I didn't see enough from Russell in the last 2 years to want him anyways.
And Russ has had a lot of former teammates the last few years saying things about him not being a good teammate too.
Yeah. He comes in and wants his own like office or something. Like,
yeah, like you really want to take a chance on that, bringing something like that into your team where it's a lot of young really easily influenceable guys, man, yeah, I that one. So
Yeah,
to
no,
me,
thank
it's a
you.
pass, even if you can get them at league minimum. Because if it does become a big drama thing, then man, you could have just poisoned a situation that had a lot of potential.
Yep, yep, for sure. But that's gonna wrap up this episode. If you guys have anyone you think Pittsburgh should go after in free agency, or again mock draft, if you have a mock draft you want to send us, we will talk about it on the show. We will highlight you, talk about you if you have anything you want to say about it, and definitely also look forward to discussing who you had us pick up, why you had us pick them up, and break that down on the show as well. So thank you guys so much for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, again, remember to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts for James over here. It makes him really happy. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.